The way I structure my short-term rental business is with a few key team members. So in this video, I'm going to go over what those roles are, how to find the ideal person for those roles, and then how much I recommend you pay them so that they can still make a great living and you're not draining all your revenue and can still get to financial freedom, which is the goal, right? So let's dive in. So first off, the reason why I think this is so important to understand is because the going rate for a professional short-term rental property manager is somewhere between 20 and 30% of your gross revenue. Since short-term rentals bring in so much stinking income, this is a lot of money. And so you can do your own calculations, but most of my properties bring in somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 annually gross, before any expenses. So that's what your property manager is going to take if you elect to go with a short-term rental property manager, as opposed to putting these few key positions in place instead. Most people say to me, Kirby, I get that, it's expensive, but I'm a very important person. I work in a very prestigious job. My time is worth X dollars per hour. I've done the calculations. So it's beneath me to do anything that requires any sort of property management. I get that, everyone's busy, but what if there was a way to have your cake and eat it too? To have your properties feel like they're being professionally managed, but have it done by internal team members that are charging a fraction of the 25% of your gross revenue, especially once you start to accumulate 10 vacation rentals and you calculate 25% of each vacation rental making $50,000 to $100,000. That's a lot of money. Every task that feels so mystifying, like it only could possibly be handled by a professional property manager, actually could be handled by one of three main team members. So this way you don't have to be involved in the day-to-day, and your guests will feel that personalized touch that you typically get from a small internal team, as opposed to a huge property management company where you're just one more cog in the wheel and you're kind of a commodity. These are the three key team members that I rely on to run my day-to-day operations for my entire short-term rental business. And the way I think about these team members is I divide them into local and remote. So there's two team members, the cleaner and the handyman, that need to be local, and then the guest relations person can be remote. So what I've done here is I've taken all the tasks in my entire business and I've divided them between these three individuals. Because if a task is ever not assigned to somebody, it's just floating out there, you're gonna have to end up doing that at some point. So what I would rather do is list out every single possible thing that needs to occur day to day within my business, and then make sure that's assigned and there's a process behind it for one of these three key team members. So let's go through each one of them. I can show you the tasks that each one is responsible for. So for the cleaner, cleaning between guests, laundry, we have laundry facilities at every single property. They inventory everything in the house. They inventory everything in the supply closet when they're there every time. They write a personalized note and leave it for the guests with a bottle of wine. Supply restocking. So once we have a checklist in the supply closet. Once it gets below a certain point, they're responsible for going and picking up the new supplies. We have one head cleaner that does that. Small repairs, periodic deep cleanings like every quarter or semi-annually. And then they're just a second set of eyes, so that they're trained that they look at the property through the lens of what they would see as a guest. And so they let us know if there's anything that's not quite right. The second key team member, who has to be boots on the ground, that you need to hire locally, is a handyman. And so they're in charge of the initial make-ready repairs. So you buy a property, pretty much every property is going to need something. They're going to need, some house automation installed, like digital locks or a supply closet or something to get it ready. The initial furnishing is going to need to be done. So a lot of times that can be done by your handyman, or you hire a separate stager or realtor or designer in the area to do that. But a lot of times the handyman can do that. Restocking. So they could also restock the supply closet if your cleaner doesn't have that on their task sheet. Routine maintenance. Wi-Fi issues. You're going to have Wi-Fi issues. This is a big one that I used to do myself, and then we assigned it to the handyman. Landscaping and snow removal, so you could hire a separate company to do that. Or again, that could be on your handyman's list of tasks, but it needs to be assigned to someone, or you're going to be out there with a mower or a snow blower and getting rid of the snow in the winter. And then again, a third set of eyes. So you can be all the way across the country and you can manage these properties with these two key people who are boots on the ground. The third team member is a remote team member, and that's the guest relations person. So our guest relations person lives in Florida. All of our properties are in Indiana. She's never been to any of our properties, but she manages them amazingly. She answers all the guest communication. So here's the list of her tasks. She responds to all the guest inquiries. She does all the bookings. She sends the check-in instructions. So all the guest communication is on her list of responsibilities. Then when it comes to check-in day, she makes sure that the guests get checked in okay, they're all situated. She sets up the pictures and the listing of the property. So you can train this person on how to create a listing. So as you add new properties, they can line up the professional pictures after the furnishings are set up by your handyman, and then they can get it up on Airbnb. They create the assets for the guests. So when your guest walks in, it's nice to have a guidebook for them sitting there with the rules and with a list of all the great things for them to do in the area. And so this person can create that. They can create the signage for your guests. They can leave the guest reviews afterwards because they've had the communication with the guests, and then they can make pricing tweaks. So if you're not using like a Price Labs or a Wheelhouse, they can actually do all the pricing changes, or you can put one of those in place and then they just make tweaks to it beyond what the algorithm is doing. So then the question comes up, in this labor market, how do I find really talented, really good, responsible individuals to fill these three key roles? And we've done a lot of soul searching around this, a lot of analysis when it comes to these three roles. And so starting with the boots on the ground roles, the cleaner and the handyman, we kind of divide these roles into two separate categories. So there's like the big cleaner and big handyman type companies. So you hire a actual company and you don't actually have a relationship necessarily with the person who's doing the work. You're hiring a company. The other side of that is you could hire a 1099 individual who is talented at cleaning themselves, or a handyman who's maybe a retired person who just starts his own handyman company. It's a one-man show and you're hiring him to do the work or her to do the work. And what we've had is a lot more success with the latter, with the 1099 individual, because you're having somebody, that same person, come back to the property to do the work over and over again. And so they understand the property, they have a one-on-one relationship with you, as opposed to hiring a business that's gonna hire somebody else that's probably a minimum wage worker that probably doesn't have as much vested interest in that cleaning or that repair. And a lot of times you're paying an inflated price because they have a lot more overhead as well. The best way to find them is through referrals. So if you have a friend and they have their house cleaned, just say, who cleans your house? Like, if they do a good job, can I use them as well? Or if you have a realtor who works with clients, they probably have handyman work done all the time. Or title company agents, they are always doing closings and they have relationships with these people. So it's just about asking other people who has a track record of doing a good job for them and who would they use if they were going to have this work done. And a lot of times if you ask enough people, boots on the ground, in that area, wherever it is, not necessarily where you're living, but in that local area, you can find someone who's really good. Then when it comes to hiring your guest relations person, really all you should be concerned with is finding the most positive, most happy, most empathetic person you can possibly find. Those are the characteristics that are going to lead to success in this role. You can teach someone the tactical side of responding to guests. It's very difficult to teach someone who's sort of a negative person who doesn't have the people skills how to have those people skills. So it doesn't matter where they're located, they can be anywhere. You can teach them that process. We use a company called Powerhouse Planning that hires military spouses to fill remote roles. And so we went to Powerhouse Planning, told them what we needed in this individual. They found us somebody who's absolutely amazing at this, and she's done a great job for us. Finally, what is the best way to pay these individuals so that they're excited to be a part of the team and motivated to come to work and it's also not draining all of your revenue, and you can still run a viable business. So when it comes to the handyman and cleaners, we like to pay per job. So for the cleaners, per house, we look at the house, how many bedrooms it has, how long it's gonna take for a cleaner to clean typically, and we just assign a set dollar amount. Now, sometimes we'll have one person check in, they sleep in one bed, and it's a super easy cleaning the next time. And then sometimes we'll have 10 people stay in that house and they mess up every bed, and it takes the cleaner a lot longer. But they know over time it's all gonna even out, and there's a set dollar amount for that individual house. And then we offer spot bonuses too. When we go and check out their job and they do a great job, we'll give them bonuses too from time to time. For the handyman, we pay him per... For the handyman, it's more of an on-call basis. He's available 24/7, and so we're not having handyman tasks done all the time. It's more of a one-off situation between guests. You know, he'll go and fix things up here and there, or if there's an emergency that pops up. And since this is more rare, it's pretty cost-effective for us to just call him. He tells us an estimate of what the price is gonna be on a specific task, and then he goes and knocks it out. And finally, for the guest relations person, we spent a lot of time thinking through a compensation system that would really motivate her to feel like a true member of the team, and that she's being compensated for the effort that she's putting in. So what we do is she tracks her hours that she's working on our business. And we came up with sort of an estimate of how many hours we think it's gonna take. And if it goes over that on a monthly basis, she checks in with us to make sure we're aware that it's going to go over that. But we pay her on an hourly basis just for the time that she's working on our business. And then in addition to that, Airbnb allows guests to rate different categories of their stay. So there's 5 different categories, everything from check-in process to communication. And so we look at that one individual category of communication, and we give her an extra $100 a month bonus per property that has all 5 stars in communication, because that's her role really, is the communication. And so if a guest is gonna rate all 5 stars across a property for all the stays, we're more than willing to give an extra $100 bonus per property. So as your properties add up, that bonus grows over time, and it becomes really worthwhile for her to work to ensure that the communication's on point. And in turn, that helps your properties, helps your business, and all the incentives are aligned. So by hiring these 3 key team members yourself, as opposed to hiring a professional property manager, you're not only going to have a lot better control over your business, but you're also gonna save a ton of money. We created a checklist for our cleaners that walks them through step by step exactly what we expect on every single cleaning, and it's really helped our quality control. So if you want a free copy of that, you can download that in the comments below. If you got something out of this video, hit the like button, also hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.